So to continue on Wednesday morning, working from memory. I've got an excellent long-term memory, and I haven't combed my hair yet. It looks a bit of a mess. People here say, well, it always looks a bloody mess. I said, beg your pardon. Cheek. So I put the runaway truck in the sandpit, and they had to get a big caterpillar to come down from the quarry and pull it out and get it down into our yard, which was just outside the quarry. The next morning, Mick the boss wasn't happy. He says, that was the right performance yesterday, wasn't it? I said, yeah, it was, mate. What happened? I said, the brakes failed. Well, didn't you see the warning light? It didn't work, mate. Well, didn't you hear the warning buzzer? It didn't work, mate. Well, the actuators, when the air pressure goes down, it locks the brakes on. So it didn't work, mate. It's a bloody performance. I've got to pay for that cat coming down. I said, what the fucking hell was I supposed to do, Mick? Best thing you can do is put a fucking anchor in there. Next time I'll throw the anchor out. I said, fuck this. I don't have to put up with this. I'm going home. And I walked over to my car. He says, hang on, don't be hasty. You could never get drivers. And swiftly moving on, the long distance work dropped off, so I put all the big 38-ton bulk tipper lorries on local work down to this customer at Bridgewater. And he said, you've got to do, what was it, either 6 or 7 loads a day, because it's only a short local run, otherwise the job won't pay. So on this Monday morning, all the rigid vehicles and all the big articulated vehicles turned up at the customer, and there were nowhere to tip the stone. So we spent all morning laughing and joking in each other's cabs, smoking, and in the cafe taking the piss out of Huey. Daft not daft, daft, D-A-F-T, or silly, daft Huey. And Huey loved the piss taking because it was attention that he craved for in the yard. I once saw him throw himself into a large pool of water because it was being ignored and he wanted the attention. I thought, you've got a serious problem, mate. But anyway, larking about all morning, and at midday, Big Geordie was the first one to get rid of his load, and he went back up to the quarry, passing our yard on the way in, and he came back out with another load of stone on his second load, and the boss came out and stopped him. He said, hello Geordie, how many loads have you done? He said, 1. 1? Geordie said, yep. 1? And Mick was jumping up and down with rage, his wig bouncing up and down. 1? Geordie said, yeah, nowhere to tip the stone, Mick. And Mick said, well, I've been talking to Richard, the boss down there. He said Geordie don't want to know. He just sits in his cab idling his time away. Geordie said, what, he said that about me? Mick said, yes, he did. And Geordie said, well, I'll sort that cunt out. And he drove off and left Mick standing in the middle of the road. Mick shouted, don't you say a word to him. And he panicked because they were lying. He sent the young rep down. Don't let Geordie go in that office. So there's Geordie driving down, steam blowing out of his nostrils, thinking, just fucking wait till I get down there. And the rep went hurtling past in the car. And at the customer, Geordie pulled up, marched over to the office, and the rep put his hand up. He says, Mick says you haven't got to go in there. Geordie said, get out my fucking way or I'll flatten you. And he went in the office shouting and bawling at poor Richard. Who's that? If it's who I think it is, I'm ignoring it. Yeah, I'm ignoring it. Go away. So he went in the office shouting and bawling at poor Richard, and Richard said, calm down Geordie. He says, I haven't spoke to Mick this morning, he's lying to you. So Geordie went hurtling back up to the quarry and pulled up, marched in our office, and his daughter Amanda sat there. She says, he's had to go out. Yeah, he went out Geordie's way. That's her on the top floor. I'm not doing shopping for her. She's got a scooter, same as me. She can do her own shopping. So Mick decided to buy a large porter cabin, so our drivers didn't have to hang around the office, and it was put on a 40-foot flat trailer, and he gave the job to Big Dennis, banned from every pub in Cheddar for fighting, evil temper, and when he lost his temper, his eyes used to bulge and his head went forward, and we used to say, "Hey, be careful, Dennis is in a temper." And he chased the boss around the yard one day, and Mick was running, holding on to his wig. He went in the office and locked the door. Of course, Dennis had been with him ever since he started in business, and Dennis used to get away with a lot. And he gave the job to Dennis. Now, from the village of Cheddar, went up a narrow lane up to our yard and the quarry, and posh houses each side. It was rather narrow, always a struggle for trucks when they were passing, and Dennis got the load stuck in the lane. Well, I wasn't there, Geordie was telling me. He says, honestly, I pissed myself laughing. He said, I actually did. He said, Dennis was on back of the trailer like King Kong in a wild temper, tearing branches off trees and hurling them into the beautiful gardens. And this very posh lady came out and complained bitterly, and Dennis told her to fuck off and threw a branch at her. And she went in tears. Her husband came out, "How dare you speak to my wife like that?" And Dennis told him to fuck off and threw a branch at him. And Geordie said it was hilarious, because this were in the days before YouTube and video cameras. And his voice, everybody came out on the lane, and Dennis's voice could be heard up and down the lane, echoing. He says, "When I get my hands on Mick, I'll wring his fucking neck." It should have been videoed. It's brilliant. And after demolishing a few more walls and damaging some beautiful trees, Dennis finally got the load up to the yard. It was all a waste of time, because Mick hadn't got planning permission, and the port cabin was broke up and came back down the lane in back of the tipper lorry straight down to the tip. But Mick and his wife had to get back down the lane and apologise to the enraged residents who were being violated by Dennis's evil temper. And one day Dennis was doing a run down to this local customer, which involved using one section of the M5 motorway, and the bloke was hitchhiking, and of course, obviously, Dennis ignored him. So the bloke went, "Fuck you," and Dennis saw him in the near side mirror. No one put two fingers up at Dennis. He screeched to a halt, ran back, the hitchhiker went, and Dennis whacked him. Yeah, probably the last time that bloke ever put two fingers up at Dennis. Now, going back to fish, I did a run with the new Scania. I said to the blokes at Falmouth Docks, don't put too much in, because it makes them overweight. They said, "Oh, we can't, we've just got to get the fish off the trawler." So they dumped it in, and it was full to the top. I thought, God, it's going to be at least up to 20 ton overweight. But it was brand new Scania. It was quite capable of pulling it. And we couldn't, as I say, we couldn't use the weigh bridges, because these old scrap trailers, seawater were pouring out. And then, as I said, the fish used to compress, and thick, smelly red blood. Well, I left the docks, and the local residents in Falmouth, at the first Rhode Island, they used to stand there with the white buckets in their hands, waiting for any fish that dropped off, so they could stop their freezers up, because it was fresh mackerel. And I drove down to the first island. I saw them all standing there, and I thought, well, the vehicle's quite stable. It had got 6 axles, 3 axles on the unit and 3 axles on the trailer. And this was before Mick bought super single tyres, so apart from the steering axle, each axle had 2 tyres on the end of it, so it was very stable, and it was grossly overloaded. So I approached the island going a bit fast and spun the steering wheel, and the trailer leaned and a huge wave of fish went over the side. I heard them all shout, "Hooray!" And all the freezers were stocked up. And Mick used to say, "Don't bring the trailers back to the yard at Cheddar, because that blood is going into the drains. Book a night out and go straight up with it to either Hull or Aberdeen." So this particular night, all of us stopped at this big lay-by, one of the drivers dropped his trailer and went down to the local supermarket and came back with cans of beer. We all got our little gas burners out, and fish. Well, we've got hundreds of tons of fish, and help yourself. And we all dined on fresh mackerel and cans of lager, beer. And of course, next morning when we pushed off, oh God, eyeballs and hanging on the ground. And there were good happy days then. So I'll leave it at that, yeah, because I don't want the videos to go on too long, and I've got lots more, and as I say, I've got this very good long-term memory. What I did this time yesterday, I haven't got a fucking clue. Right, I'm off. Cheers.